Particular morning, and of course we have many that have joined us. With me in studio, ELLY, who is the ED Uganda Export Promotion Board, and of course a number of things are going to be discussed. He has written a book, Why Africa Fails, and that focuses on what independence is to us and what have we done in terms of economically being independent, and of course a number of things. Now I must say, as we're looking at our theme here of consolidation of national unity, security, freedom and prosperity, a number of things need to be talked about, where we've come from and where we are now. Now a number of things we've been looking at in terms of our performance, our GDP, where we've been since 1962 and where we are now. I'm going to let you get us into that discussion, but very quick, we're looking at Uganda at 57. Okay, and of course the celebrations are in Sironko. They're at the district headquarters. But first of all, you're very welcome.
Thank you very much. How are you, Rowena?
I'm good. Thank you for making time. I
don't want to say on camera that I've been missing you because it will be construed very badly. People who don't know English might think that we could say it in Uganda later on.
Oh, okay. You're very smart.
Thank you.
Just for...
I'm in the mood.
Oh, yeah.
I am tired of uniforms. You know the Muzungu brought us uniforms that you have to wear a tie, you have to put on a suit. So this is the way. I mean, these are our colors. I am so excited.
This should be Ugandan.
Yes, this should be Ugandan.
Okay. Well, thank you for making time. You're very smart. And we're looking at 57 years.
Thank you. 57 years is quite a period. We can, at 57, this person is mature anyway, you know. He's no longer a kid, he's no longer, he's another.
Almost retirement.
You know, you have, in Uganda's case, 3 years to retirement. They have been discussing increasing the age for professionals, for consultants, especially doctors, judges, and other people, and lecturers. But the standard age is 60. So we have 3 years to retirement. And you see, when you are going for retirement, you have to prepare for retirement. It means you have worked hard before. It means you prepared yourself. It means you have a house to retire to. It means maybe you have some nimiro, some small garden to retire to, because you don't want to wallow in poverty after you have worked for 60 years. Okay.
Now, 57 years, we must have registered political, social, economic growth.
Yes.
You know, and we're earlier talking on the fact that we are now at 27 billion dollars in terms of our GDP,
which translates into more than 42 million trillion Uganda shillings. This is impressive because at the time of independence, we were talking about around 440 million US dollars. And that could be translated into anything. We were talking at GDP per capita, which was so small, around 60 US dollars. Despite the challenges, because since around 1970 to 1986, we had a challenge. The economy was not growing at all. And therefore it is even difficult to tell how much GDP per capita we had. But now, fast forward, we are above 800 US dollars, and we are towards 1,000. And you have had a National Planning Authority and the President saying entering the middle income status, meaning we have to be $1,000 and above. So we are, give or take, we are like 100. We are no longer even $200 away from the middle income status. We are around 100 or whatever. So there has been impressive growth. But Rowena, I have to mention that Uganda lost a lot. At independence, the World Bank states that Uganda had one of the most vibrant economies and was poised to grow more than other African countries. It had good climate, it had fertile soils, it had a good environment, it had chances of tourism, and had overall hospitable people. Winston Churchill, the British Prime Minister, who visited Uganda, he moved all around and said he had never seen a country in his life And I think that Prime Minister at that time had moved to different places.
Yeah.
So he told the Bush government, please concentrate on Uganda. Concentrate on Uganda, because he looked at Uganda as, I think, that Garden of Eden. You know,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Apparently, some people, yeah, were a pal, but well.
Because that Garden of Eden, a few things happened, but I think that was a good garden. God gave us this big garden, this beautiful garden, with beautiful people, hospitable people, flora and fauna, good climate, fertile soils. I have been to different parts of the world. I can tell you very well, very, very well, that when you come back to Uganda, you feel a difference. People who don't want to believe it, it's up to them. But Uganda is one of the countries. You don't have winter, you don't have summer, you don't have spring, you don't have fall. You
have to adjust everything.
Yeah, every time, and you have to change clothes, and then clothes, and you say this season has changed, then you have to throw away all your clothes. I mean, where can you get such an economy? Even South Africa, those countries in South Africa have winter. A different winter from the one in UK and North America and other Europe, but they have winter. But what did this mean? That we have ample rainfall, which can enable agriculture. And let me mention that between 1972 to 1979, when Amin expelled the Asians, who had been artisans, shopkeepers, controlling internal and external trade, imports went down. So some companies and businesses that depended on imports went down. Manufacturing declined completely because some of the little factories then depended on imports and raw materials. The only sector that survived was agriculture, but unfortunately, subsistence agriculture. You work for your tummies. You just produce cassava, you eat it. Produce wantoka, you eat it. Sorghum, you eat it. Millet is a highly labor intensive. But
after that,
it's for the stomach. You don't sell it. So that is the only sector that survived. Fast forward, Uganda has registered again impressive growth. But growth also, I will talk about the challenges, that the benefits of growth, of rapid growth, sometimes are construed by society as costs, or they bring costs. And I will talk about it, like if you buy more vehicles, because those are benefits of growth, then you have too much traffic jam, and we have pedestrians have nowhere to pass. So I talk about that, that is the challenge. But Uganda has achieved impressive growth, despite more than 22 years between 1970 and 1986, where there was negative growth, where inflation increased, where there was no production, where manufacturing declined. Manufacturing picked up from 1990 up to now. And as you know now, we export more than $1 billion US, and you know now we are exporting to Kenya.
Are we saying because now we are private-led, really?
Especially, thank you very much for that question. At independence and thereafter, Uganda was more of what can be perceived as, I don't want to use those big terms, socialist, communist, and capitalism, but it was more in the hands of government. For example, there was Coffee Marketing Board, there was Produce Marketing Board. Those were agencies of government. So the government controlled the marketing. And when you are right now, we are a liberal economy. It is private sector led. In the late 1980s and the beginning of the 90s, the government deliberately decided to liberalize the economy, to open up the economy to the private sector. And this has had impressive achievements, with a few flaws and challenges, but overall we have had a lot of achievements, because the economy now is in the hands of the people, of the households, who in economics we used to think that they are just consumers. Now they are producers, they are consumers, they are investors.
Yes. Now, but this is very interesting, because see, like you said, there are challenges. Sometimes, or I would say there's often times where people have said, well, it was much better than now, where we have a liberal economy, which would seem quite good. But there's a few characters that have come out and said, well, there's a number of challenges that have come with this liberal economy.
You see, Rowena, it is what we call a welfare state, a welfare economy. And that you can achieve when you have developed completely.
Yes.
If you live in Canada now, when you have no job, government is giving you anywhere $600 to $1,000 to live on. The government is giving you accommodation, where to live. Because they, under the money, they are already developed. And therefore, they can create a welfare state. That time, because I told you the government was controlling everything, the government thought they would provide everything.
Yeah.
When they had not reached the level of a welfare state, because they had not developed. So, at independence, Uganda was not developed. And no one can say Uganda was developed. And let me mention, there have been many comparisons. People say at independence, Uganda was at the same level as Singapore, was at the same level as South Korea, was at the same level as Taiwan. They say was even at the same. I've seen comparisons comparing Ghana, Malaysia, and Ghana, Malaysia, and Uganda. Yes, at the same level of GDP. But there is what we call in development, what we call initial conditions. What were the initial conditions? What was the level of education, levels of literacy? What were the levels of actual democracy? Where people believed it was the government for them and there was their government. What was the level of population growth? What was the level of agricultural modernization? What was the level of international trade? At independence, Uganda was trading in only cash crops, and they called them cash crops. And they were going to the colonialists, they were going to those who colonized us. Coffee, cotton, tobacco, tea, and then some minerals, cobalt, and copper. Those were the main ones. And then it was an economy also depending on the colonialists, isn't it? The colonial government was in a way subsidizing the economy.
And now it's a different story. So
now we have to work hard. Even in the Bible, I don't read a lot I read when I was young. God said he had thrown food, had thrown food those days, but he said he will not throw food
I know
anymore.
you don't want to use the name of the food. Now finally, because our colleagues, I'm seeing Jordan Lukomwa is set to bring us the live events that are happening there in Sironko, the district headquarters. Finally, very briefly, in regards to some of our achievements, you did talk about the economy and GDP per capita there, things like infrastructure and things like that, but finally, to the people that are watching us.
One of the achievements that Uganda has attained is self-awareness. We now know we are Ugandans, different tribes, communities united in our diversity. We now know we have to have Uganda, and we have to protect it, and we have to love it. And we now know how to work as Ugandans to develop. And I tell you, our economy has grown too much. Infrastructure, roads, power stations, all things, we have more factories, we are exporting more from factories. We used to import everything from factories from Kenya. Now we are exporting to Kenya more than $200 million per year.
That's good.
I think we are doing well.
Okay. Well, that's it. ELLY TWINEYO, ED Export Promotion Board. Very good statistics there and how we're performing. You know, usually we look at our balance of trade there. But also, I must say, he is an author of the book Why Africa Fails. This is why some of the things he has pointed out really take us back to our economy, what it was in terms of independence and where we are now, the blame game, the achievements and things like that. My colleagues there, Jordan Lukomwa and Jagan Asimakula, are in Sironko, and they're going to be bringing us the live feed or the celebrations of Uganda at 57. I am feeling very dull today because everyone is, all clad in bright colors for the independence celebration.
Black is one of the colors of Uganda. You are shouting, by the way. When we move camera, I'll tell you what was shouting.
But well, I will let you go into the live broadcast that we're bringing you from Sironko at the district headquarters. Just a reminder of the theme: consolidation of national unity, security, freedom, and prosperity. ROUENAH KAJUMBA is my name.